Good afternoon, it's Tuesday the 11th of June now, a week since the last update video. It's been another fast week, as they all are, and an interesting week and slightly confusing week and some dilemmas week. Back end of last week, or the week before, I mentioned about the ammonia problem. That's resolved, the water's been running beautifully since. But then back end of last week, started to find a few little dead fry in the tank. It didn't overly concern me, purely because they were obviously the smallest fry, potentially the weakest, or the weakest fry. They haven't grown particularly well, so I wasn't too concerned. And then a couple of days ago, a couple of slightly larger fry started to die, so I started to puzzle about what the reasons were. If he was going to stop at just a couple, it's fine, but it's one of those things can sort of spiral out of control, and a couple becomes a dozen every now a day, and then more and more and more. So I started to think of the reasons why it might be, and one of the things at the weekend, a group of us went down to Dave Baker's. I mentioned Dave Baker before. He's a local amateur breeder here, breeds shower. We went down to have a look at his spawning, which took place a couple of days after mine, and chat about various things. And he got a huge number of fry from his spawning. It was a large female that was spawned, and he had a great hatch rate as well. But there was a net in one of his ponds, and Dave said, "Oh, there's 3,000 in there." And then I looked in there, and I kept looking in there and puzzling and thinking, you know, if there's 3,000 in there, then there's way more in the tank here behind me. And it started to dawn on me that what the problem possibly was the fact that after the ammonia and I'd stopped feeding the brine shrimp, I probably haven't been feeding enough. The fish are growing, obviously. If you've seen the last two videos, and it's even more apparent if I watch the last two videos, how much they've changed between that sort of 10-day period there was. When you look every day, it's not so apparent how quickly they're growing, but I'm very happy with the way they are growing. But I figured that there was probably some more food could be going in there. So as of last night, I started a midnight feed, and they've been fed pretty much every hour and a half during the day, and I'm starting to feed a more measured amount. It's about a teaspoon of food goes in each time, whereas before that it really was just a pinch or so, a large pinch. But at least if I'm measuring now, I've got a better idea that how much food they're getting, rather than just a feeling as it was at the time. And the good news is, touch wood, holding the side of the tank behind me, is that I think this morning there was one dead fish on the tank, and then during the course of the day I've not seen anything, so that's good. The fish seem more lively as well. Now there's more food going in, and we put in the teaspoon in every hour. The power is almost constantly, always seems to be on the surface, so whenever a fish is wanting to eat, they can eat. Daphnia seems to have been a bit of a failure this week, to be honest. Last week I put the tanks outside and expanded the tanks to 3. I think I mentioned that in the video. Then we got a cold spell, and the Daphnia that were in the tanks didn't seem to do anything. Then I put some new Daphnia in last Friday, which unfortunately seemed to not have done a great deal either. So I've started to scoop up some of the big Daphnia, as well as the small Daphnia, putting them in the tank inside the net, and then hopefully some form of colony will start in there. As you can see from the water, it's very green, so there's plenty for the baby Daphnia to be feeding on if they're not eating straight away. So hopefully that'll give us a head start here. In a minute I'm going to scoop out a net full of fry from one in the corner. We'll start to count them and give me an idea of how much there are in a scoop and how many other scoops I can see around the tank. With the green water, I know they're all the way down in the water column and from top to bottom. So there's way more than I can possibly see at any given time. So that's a really positive. I'm really happy that we got way more. I'm starting to question whether I really should be doing a second spawning, but which is still my plan. And maybe I'd be better off splitting these lots of fry between the temporary paddling pool outside and the tank inside, and seeing how they fare. But I'll still make a judgment call. I'd rather have more of an idea of what this lot are like before I actually make that decision not to do a spawning and lump all the males and the females together, or in which case they're probably going to get on with spawning themselves anyway. One other thing, or a couple of things I have to mention. Ammonia test kits in general. Ever since setting up this tank, test kits have been a real bugbear of mine, I've got to be honest. And I've bought a couple more sets of test kits. As you can see, I've got quite a range of different test kits. I mentioned before, I think the first one I bought was this Pond Lab one, the NT Labs Pond Lab one. The first time I tried to open the bottle of pH testing reagent in that, the bottle cap wouldn't come off properly. That wasn't a good start, but I used the ammonia of that's been well exhausted. I've written about the Kasuri ones previously on the blog, and I'm not going to do an exhaustive chat about these today. I'm going to save that for another video. The API one and the ammonia and the Kasuri one have been my sort of staple for the last few weeks, and today I picked up a couple more Tetra, which is probably way back to when I was a kid, was the test kit that I've used, and this new Colombo one. At the moment, the basic feeling is that some of them are fundamentally flawed, and some of them could so easily be better. So anyway, I'm going to do a bit more of an exhaustive test on those, and actually use the Colombo one for the first time, which I've never used as at the moment, and the Tetra one. And the one thing that really annoys me, and is the hard thing with all these things, is the comparison of colour when you're trying to see the water sample and the colour that it's supposed to match. And some of them just make it so difficult. The API one and the NC Labs ones, both using round reagent test tubes, and it's impossible to see a standard colour through those. The Kasuri one used to be great, not so great now. I think Tetra is going to be on a winner, because Tetra use square tubes, and Colombo, I like the potential for how they put their sample jars against the sample card, and I don't know if you can quite see it on the video there, it says precise, and I think that's suggesting in that little symbol there how difficult it is to hold a tube up and measure the light or the colour against the colour chart, as you have to do with most of them. Anyway, that's another thing for another day. I'll be doing a proper test once I've used the Tetra one more recently and the Colombo one. That'll be on Nishigo Dirt Life in a week or so possibly. So what I'm going to do now is take a scoop. It's actually a scoop from this front corner here that I'll take. And then we'll put those into a little bowl and count out and see how many we get in that scoop. So literally what I'm going to do is take one scoop into the corner here and see what we get. And as you can see, quite a lot. So there we are, one net of fry just from that little corner. And what I shall do, you can see probably, I'm not going to, if I can count them out black and white, I'm not really sure to be honest. This is the general size we're at anyway, fairly consistent size amongst them, the one bit of a beast there. I would think probably something like a 50-50 split of black and white as well. this is how the fry are looking this week. So what should I do now? Count this little lot back into the tank, get an idea how many there were in this little scoop. There must be well over 100, I suspect, in there. So I'll let you know once I've counted them. Just before I count, I'll transfer them to a different bowl, and hopefully this will give you a slightly closer look at what they're looking like at the moment. Fortunately, as I say, I really can't see the video camera screen at all in the light in the koi house. The sunshine coming right behind me. Anyway, get these counted and back into the tank now. Okay, two things became apparent there. One, that I'd set it up completely wrong for counting those babies in any accurate manner. It was impossible to get them out. The net was too shallow how I'd set it up in that little white bowl without risking damaging them, so I kind of scrapped the idea. What was very apparent is that when I counted the first 20 out, there were obviously well over 100, probably 150 or more in that little scoop. So for me, that's really exciting, because I'm way higher there than, you know, if I'd have that first Saturday after the spawning took place a few weeks ago, I thought there was maybe 100 eggs in total, so obviously that was way out. What do I know? Another little thing I want to tell you about this project was kind of always about two things. One was breeding koi, and the other thing that I've mentioned a couple of times in the blog was that I wanted to do some stuff with aquaponics, try some stuff with aquaponics. Good friends Matt McCann, Matt and Jen McCann in America, Benny Hanna Nishigoi and Benny Hanna Aquaponics. They're working with koi and aquaponics to do some great looking stuff there. And then my friend Eric Thomas as well, Eric and his father, they're doing some stuff with aquaponics up in Kentucky. And I think it's really exciting, real potential to combine the two and hopefully do something interesting. And I kind of had this bigger picture of doing some sort of, you know, eco-friendly koi and bio vegetables and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so where am I going with this? The other day my aunt was here and she said, so what's happening about the aquaponics? So at the weekend I decided to finally get some seeds, and I've just planted out my first what will be hopefully aquaponic lettuce. So in here, in this white tray, they're coir, I assume that's how you spell it, pronounce it, C-O-I-R, pellets, which come as flat little discs that expand when you put them in warm water, a bit warm water. They've now been sowed with lettuce seed in each one, and they'll stay here inside in the warm. Got to remember to keep the tray nice and damp, and hopefully in 7 days or maybe less we'll have some shoots coming out of here. Then the idea is that they'll be grown in a raft on the tank and see how they do. So for now, a bit of fun, but very much hopefully possibly in the future something that's going to combine with the breeding of koi. Maybe offset some of the expense, save buying ladders if nothing else. So hopefully next time we make a video, there'll be some little green shoots coming out of there, and we can show you the next stage of that, and the fry will continue growing, and all will be good. Fingers crossed.